The Panthers win their 5th straight game at the Rock, and this one, a tightly contested one, as the Panthers finish the quick 2-game road trip at 500.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, January 15th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to our team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers, as well as on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You could catch the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And if you're on the YouTube, make sure you smash that like button. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can do that all on Game Time. So the Florida Panthers, second end of a back-to-back, where after the Panthers lose in Philadelphia, the Panthers decide to juggle their lines. It was a tightly contested game through the first 40 minutes, and then 2 goals less than 2 minutes apart. The Panthers needed an overtime and a shootout after to get the 2-1 win for the Panthers. The only line that scored on the night was the one that was not changed for the Panthers. And Spencer Knight, spectacular in this one against the New Jersey Devils, getting a shootout win, stopping both Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes in the shootout to find a way to get a 2-1 win, a necessary win for the Panthers, and their first actual mini 2-game streak for them sit in the last 3 weeks. And here to break this game and all down for this 2-1 shootout win for the Panthers, it is a Winans Wednesday, which means Jacob Winans is back here on the show. And Jacob, welcome back. And great to see the Panthers on the winning side on a Winans Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely. It's always fun to recap a win. It was an interesting game. It was a really low event to start. Panthers, we figured, would come out a little bit slow. It would take some time to find their legs. The defense was pretty solid. They were kind of feeling each other out for a while. Goaltending was rock solid on both ends. And then, things kind of just exploded after Matthew Tkachuk laid a clean hit on Nico Hischer, which somehow ends up with the Panthers on a penalty kill after Tkachuk gets jumped by the entire Devils roster, basically. Then from that point on, the game had definitely had some spice to it, and a playoff style win. Obviously, you don't have 3-on-3 overtime and a shootout in the playoffs, but it was a really playoff type game, a grinded out type of game, and the Panthers come out with the W in the shootout. Excellent performance from Spencer Knight, and then Barkov and Lundell continue to be absolutely lethal in shootouts. Lundell really is living up to the baby Barkov tag here, because he's become an absolute weapon when you get to the shootouts. It's pretty spectacular to watch.
Yeah, and that wasn't the only hit that Matthew Tkachuk had for this one that was really stood out. The first one on Kovacevic that he retaliated on later. So talk about making a big impact in this game. And then you see Paul Cotter and Curtis McDermott respond in the first period for them, for the New Jersey Devils. But really for the Panthers, after all that, they really started to really contain the speed of the New Jersey Devils. PK Subban was pointing out about them forcing them to dump the puck in the zone to get at the end of their shifts for their changes and everything. And really, another thing for the Panthers is just really the puck support was a lot better today than it was on Monday night, for sure, for the Panthers. And just the first pass out for them was way better. I mean, they did struggle to get to the net front. The ESPN Plus broadcast did provide the graphic of where all the shots came from, and very perimeter based for the Panthers. But really, I thought Tobias Bjornfort was noticeable in this one. I mean, the give and how he was working with the give and go on a little drop. I forget who was the one who dropped it, but getting the pucks to the net. And then there was one battle at the blue line where he checked the stick out, won the race to the red line, and then was able to get a proper clear. So the Panthers very crisp when it came to that on the night for them. And I mean, even though they struggled to get to the net front, I thought the ones of Mackie Samoskevich and AJ Greer, they were at least getting the speed part of the Panthers rush to at least getting them clean into the offensive zone, even though the gaps were closed and they had a hard time getting back to their forehand. I thought there were signs of good things, little small details for the Panthers that they did well, even though it didn't always end up as far as those second or third chances for them.
Yeah, I think for a game on the second night of a back-to-back, I wasn't expecting them to really live in the crease and get a lot of in tight chances, because it's a tough area to get to. Requires a lot of energy, requires a lot of sort of determination and ability to just take some of those hits and the bumps, and a lot of that is it's the dirty work, and you don't expect to have that in your game all the time when you're tired on the second night of a back-to-back. So wasn't too alarmed with the lack of rebound chances and the lack of crease presence. That's pretty typical on the second night of a back-to-back. Defensively, though, I thought they did a really good job of collapsing in and protecting the house and forcing the Devils to play a perimeter game, because the Devils are a team that's high skill. They're at their best when they're able to carry in through the neutral zone and set up pretty passing plays, which is how they really dismantled the Panthers the first two times they played down in Sunrise. It was the transition game that the Panthers just couldn't keep up with, and then you end up taking penalties and letting the Devils get on the power play, and then they kill you there too. So keeping them on the perimeter and forcing them to dump the puck in instead of carry it in. The Devils are not the team that's really going to wear you into the ground with their forecheck. They're more speed and skill, less grit and grind. So I thought the game plan was executed perfectly tonight to keep them perimeter. And it definitely meant that the Panthers played a little more perimeter style themselves, but in a game that's going to come down to one goal, I'd rather have it played in the Panther style than the Devils style. So I was happy with the game plan. The defense for the most part was really, really solid too. I thought Gus Forsling had a really good game. Had some tough assignments defensively, had to break up some rushes. Got beat on one of them, but that's what happens. He blows a tire, and that just sort of happens sometimes when you have best on best. Sometimes their best is going to get the better of yours. And I thought overall Forsling played a really solid game. I thought Nico Mikkola, his puck handling can be iffy at times. He's asked to do a lot more puck handling and carrying than he was last year, but solid game again from Mikkola. And like you said, Bjornfoot, he's definitely made an impression. It seems he has passed Adam Boqvist on the depth chart, and he played another good game tonight. You mentioned his breakouts; they were crisp and clean, but he also has a really good set of wheels. He's a great skater and skates himself out of trouble sometimes. But what I was most impressed with in his game tonight was his willingness to take a hit to make a play. A couple times in this game, he got absolutely rocked, and he showed no fear.
And blood.
He took a hit to the mouth from Curtis McDermott, who is a massive individual. That is one of the heaviest hitters in hockey. He took a hit to the head from McDermott, but he got the puck in past the red line. Later on in the game, he pinched to try to keep the puck in the zone. Can't remember who caught him on that one. I want to say it was Paul Cotter. Got a hit in on him on the boards, and it was another big hit, but he successfully pinched, kept the puck in the zone, and the Panthers got some more ozone time and were able to complete a change. That's the kind of stuff that earns you your stripes with your teammates. Take a hit to make a play, and he showed no fear in doing that. So I like Bjornfoot's game. Looked a little Forsling-ish to me tonight. I was pleased with that, definitely.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by the defense core in general of how the puck didn't stay under stick too long, especially when they were on the blue line cycling in the zone and just bringing it up. And then the Panthers containing someone like Jesper Bratt. I mean, there was two back checks in the same shift that Jesper Boqvist had to break up of him coming up the wing, and then the sweep by Nate Schmidt that originally got the Panthers that goal. That wouldn't have happened without Nate Schmidt just sweeping it up, and then Carter Verhaeghe, 2 big primary assists in last 2 weeks. The one to Tkachuk against the Pittsburgh Penguins after the 10-minute misconduct, and then this one for the first goal of the game for Carter Verhaeghe. So although he's not getting in he's not scoring goals, we're seeing the good things that Carter Verhaeghe is doing as far as like setting up his teammates there for him. So, but hey, the Panthers the Devils responded, but the Panthers still stuck tight to their identity and their game in this one. But we're going to transition to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and discuss more about when we thought the game was won. We're going to chat about that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluffs to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time on searching through thousands of tickets. Take a guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off on your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday, a Winans Wednesday edition of the show, where the Florida Panthers defeat the New Jersey Devils by a final score of 2-1 in a shootout, and 5 straight wins at the Rock for the Florida Panthers, and don't get swept in this 3-game series against the New Jersey Devils on the night. So, all right, let's go to our 3 stars of the game for this win for the Panthers. And number 3 star, okay. The defense core, I thought there was a lot of great performances individually, but I don't think Gustav Forsling was anywhere near some of the best. And I think that this person, because of being on the same pair, and this guy actually picked up a lot of the slack with the amount of minutes Gustav Forsling has been playing lately. So Dmitry Kulikov, puck support was outstanding. He was he was on the ice for the goal against, but the amount of times that we saw him slide to break up some centering feeds, 2 big hits on the night to separate the puck for him, and just not hesitant to throw the puck on the net, and also there was a great feed for like a give and go with Carter Verhaeghe that he was that caught the New Jersey Devils napping, but that was ultimately saved, but still activating in the offense for Kulikov. So your number 3 star, Jacob.
My number 3 star is going to surprise you a little bit because he wasn't very noticeable offensively, which is where he usually does his damage. And he was playing on a new line tonight. But my number 3 star is actually going to be Matthew Samoskevich. Okay. And I have a really specific reason for that. He actually led the Panthers tonight with 8 hits. Mackey led the Panthers in hits tonight. He gets a 3rd star for me because that is Paul Maurice style hockey, and I love the buy-in from the rookie. I love him taking his new role, getting a little bit of a promotion on the lines, and immediately making an impact off the puck with it. We know how good he is on the puck. We know how great he is when he can shoot, when he can pass, when he has the time and space to dangle. But to really make an impact, he's going to have to learn how to forecheck. He's going to have to learn how to win board battles. We talked about his improvement in board battles. But to see that physicality from Mackey, to get credited with 8 hits, that's not the game that we thought he was going to play. And he came in and sort of took a physical approach tonight on second night of a back-to-back. You love to see that from the rookie buying into the system and the style. So he's my 3rd star.
Yeah, for great. Just we're seeing this guy definitely grow up in his rookie season. So number 2 star for me, Jesper Boqvist, like we mentioned, one of those guys who kept Jesper Bratt in check in the first goal after a after a nice gap by Nate Schmidt to get there, and another goal for him against the New Jersey Devils this season, the former Devil, doing it against his former team there. So Jesper Boqvist, although they changed the lines a little bit, putting Greer on that line with Lundell, they switched them back almost immediately in this one. So it was strange to see the how Paul Maurice was mixing up these lines for them, and also the fourth line for the Panthers, the biggest shot on goal advantage at 5-on-5, 6-3, according to Natural Stat Trick for them. But Jesper Boqvist still finding a way to get the goal into the back of the net off the counter for the Panthers. So number two star is Jesper Boqvist. How about you?
I was tempted to put Jesper Boqvist here because he's been red hot, and outside of Sam Reinhart, Jesper Boqvist has really been driving the offense for the last few games. He's playing the best hockey of his entire career right now. And we love to emphasize team control with Jesper Boqvist. The Panthers are able to keep him around for a while, which should be a really nice benefit to have as a role player. So tempted to put Jesper Boqvist. I'm going to leave him off tonight just because he's been playing super well, and he's probably going to get a couple more of these. Tonight, my number 2 star is going to be Anton Lundell. I thought his line was very productive. He scores the shootout winner, once again, proving that he's able to perform under pressure. He doesn't get scared of a big moment. He seems to love doing this on the road. He's really growing into a fantastic 2C, and the Panthers are fortunate to have 2 of those, 2 guys who can play that second line center role. But I love Lundell's game. I love the shootout winner. But what I love the most about his game tonight was that Paul Maurice had that line matched up against the Jack Hughes line a lot. He was out there against Hughes and Jesper Bratt quite a bit tonight and held his own. There were multiple times where he stripped the puck right off of Jack Hughes' stick. He was great on the penalty kill. He broke up a play at the blue line where Jesper Bratt was, it looked like a little give and go, and Lundell jumps all over it, pokes it out to center ice. So for him to get the shootout winner was nice, but it was the defensive responsibility. I think obviously the home team was the Devils tonight, so Sheldon Keefe gets last change, and he tried to keep Jack Hughes away from the Barkov line, and I guess he figured that the better matchup for Jack Hughes was going to be Anton Lundell, and it just wasn't. Lundell completely eliminated him from the game, and that had to feel nice that Lundy was able to get the better of Hughes, and then when it comes into the shootout, Hughes misses and Lundell scores to win. That's got to feel nice after their run-in with each other in the last meetup back in Sunrise when they got into a little bit of a fight and Jack Hughes took a cheap shot at him.
Yeah, and Anton Lundell, 70% in the dot tonight. So just another impressive performance by Anton Lundell. Jack Hughes was 37%, although he did get 6 shots on goal for him, but still all perimeter. So thankfully, not a lot of net front for him, but the one who was really getting to the net front was Nico Hischer, just on those up the gut for him, off the rush for him. But number 1 star, Spencer Knight. It's got to be Spencer Knight, especially there's especially the pad stack save at the end on Paul Cotter after the follow through off of Thomas Tatar, and then once again one of those people who kept Nico Hischer in check when he was coming up. And then there were times where you see bouncing pucks, you see a Devils player there, and then he's very quick to his post. So I thought that Spencer Knight, using the RVH for him, he was there to get in position, and of course for him stopping Hughes and Bratt in the shootout, stopping Hughes with the blocker for him coming up huge. And you have to put Spencer Knight as the number 1 star for this one, at least in my opinion. But how about you?
Yep, Spencer Knight's my number 1 also. There's a couple aspects of his game that are super underrated and don't get talked about much. Like you mentioned, he's so quick to his post. You don't really talk about goalies using terms like explosive, but he's an explosive athlete. The drive and the push that he gets post to post is really impressive. He's an explosive athlete in the crease. And then also his stick handling is tremendous for a goalie. He helps the D so much when he's confident enough to leave his crease, settle a puck, and make the first pass. He helps his D out a lot, and especially on the second night of a back-to-back when the extra few steps that a defenseman has to take, and then possibly taking a hit behind the net while making a pass, that kind of stuff really wears your defense down, especially coming off a back-to-back. So him being able to get back there, cancel out some of those dump and chase opportunities, handle the puck himself and pass it out with an accurate breakout pass. Super underrated skill, and a lot of the young goalies are emphasizing that now, and Spencer Knight is one of the best at it. So I thought that was an aspect of his game that was great tonight. But yeah, some desperation saves. The pad stack was incredible, but that wasn't even really his best save. In my opinion, his best save is I think less than a minute left in the game. Timo Meier it's one-on-one right down the middle of the slot. Meier shoots. I think he was trying to go top corner, and Knight gets the blocker out. And then also after the pad stack save, Knight loses his stick, and a shot comes through, and he has to punch that one away with the blocker through traffic. So I thought he made some clutch saves. And then just the mental fortitude after getting scored on first in the shootout. First shot gets beaten pretty bad. Paul Cotter put a nasty move on him, and Knight got he got
bit on it. He bit pretty bad.
Bit on the fake and ends up swimming in his crease and gets beat to bounce back right after that and shut down their two best scorers. Confident game, excellent game. Really settled things down back there in a game where the Panthers probably didn't have the legs. So I love Spencer Knight's game tonight. He's my number one star.
And then the lack of panic for him. There was one shot where he thought it went to the netting, and then it ended up being in front of him, and then able to still locate the puck. In overtime, he was just getting the puck out, not trying to get the whistle, and just, hey, get up back the ice. So he knew the situation at hand, wherever it was. So a lot of situational awareness for Spencer Knight on the evening. But moment where we thought the game was won for me, it was when overtime ended. I thought the Panthers record 3-0 in shootouts going into it. New Jersey's first shootout of the season. They played their third straight overtime, and then they showed the stat of Markstrom in the shootout. It was 700 save percentage, I believe it was, that they showed it, or 700 record. I forget which one it was, but I saw it, and I'm just like, I think the Panthers have a chance because if you were able to just neutralize their speed at 3-on-3, which 3-on-3. There was a point where nobody was taking risk at the end. I was like, okay, it looked like they were playing for the shootout. So I thought once it ended, I thought the Panthers had a good chance.
Yeah, so I would agree with that in most cases, because the Panthers are such a good team in the shootout, and they kind of have an unfair lineup of guys who can score. Lundell has cemented himself as a guy who he's an automatic in the shootout. He's earned his spot in the first three, and no matter what, he's going to be shooting. Barkov, obviously the same thing, and he's gotten Markstrom on a couple of shootouts in his career. He's made him look silly a few times. So I'm very confident in shootouts, but I'm going to differ from you on this one a little bit. And the moment I thought the game was won was right after the Tkachuk hit and the ensuing scrum. I thought, to be honest, I'm shocked it even got to overtime, and I'm surprised it got to a shootout. I thought the Panthers were going to turn it up and win in regulation, and they had a couple chances to get a game-winning goal in regulation. But after that whole incident happened, and the hit by Tkachuk and gets jumped by everybody on the ice, and then the Panthers somehow end up on the kill. Lundell had a chance right on that penalty kill to score, and that would have stood as the game winner. But if he had scored that. But I just thought after that happened, the game immediately switched into, this is the Panthers type of game. The Devils are in dangerous territory. This isn't going to be a low event skill trading rush kind of game. That moment there kind of switched the tone of the game right into the type of game the Panthers like to play. And I didn't think the Devils were going to score again the rest of the game after that, and they didn't. So I was very confident the second the Panthers reacted after that hit, the big hit, the ensuing fight, and then confidence the rest of the way that this is the Panthers type of style. You don't want to be between the boards in a game against the Panthers when it's going like that.
Yeah. And there's just something about these cats late in games where something happens and it goes into their favor based on just getting to the style and just revving things up when it comes to just upsetting the opposition over and over again. So there's just something about these cats that they do it again for them. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss the latest on season ticket prices. We've heard the noise on the social media platforms, and Jacob and I are going to give our thoughts about that. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And if you need to hire, you need Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday? You can find the amazing candidates fast. Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored job. Put your post at the top of the page to help you reach candidates faster. And now you can spend the hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Indeed is all you need. Segment number 3 here on this Wednesday, January 15th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So, Jacob, recently, shortly after we've discussed some of the announcements that what's going to be happening with the arena inside and out over the next 2 years with the new scoreboard and the new social section that's going to be part of the arena. So about a few hundred seats are going to be removed. So people are moved around and everything for them. But also there is going to be a rise in prices. And some fans have voiced their displeasure on some of the season ticket prices going from somewhere between 40% up to like 110, 120 for them. And this is around the time of the year where you're looking for renewals. Franchises want to get ahead of the game and everything. But this time when the prices were announced last year, there was no way we would have projected Stanley Cup champions for the Florida Panthers. But here, you think about the success of the Panthers over the last few years, what they've done for the economy, practice facility, everything. With the ticket prices rising, it just goes to show supply and demand for this team and the product on the ice for them. And the franchise knows, with there being a waiting list, that it's something that they know they can do, unfortunately. But at the same time, I do want to be empathetic to the consumer, that if they find themselves in a position that they don't think that they should renew, and the most important thing in this life is putting food on the table and making sure everything is taken care of with families and everything, I understand the displeasure. But at the same time, I could also feel confident that with the rise in ticket prices for the Panthers being the contender that they are, that they're going to continue to reinvest into the community and into the arena, which is why I don't necessarily have the biggest of issues with it. But also this is coming from someone who doesn't spend a good portion of my income on season tickets. I can't afford them, unfortunately. But at the same time, we've seen the years of $10 tickets and things being handed out for free for games even. So yes, they've come a long way, but at the same time, this is welcome to being a champion in a region. I mean, you think of prices going up for the Heat during the LeBron years, and what that effect has done for the rise in prices and winning. And winning ultimately comes at a price. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes at the price of the consumer. So I want you to feel free to give your thoughts and any disagreements that you may have with me on on just overall the rise and the concerns for fans?
Yeah, so if you ever heard the phrase suffering from success, that's kind of how I feel about this. I feel like as fans, we're thrilled with the success. The Panthers are Stanley Cup champion finally. They're now what you can consider a perennial contender. They're going to be in the mix every year for the foreseeable future. That doesn't mean they're guaranteed any more Stanley Cups. We'd love to be confident, and I have plenty of belief that they will get at least a couple more with this core of players. But yeah, it's a team that's transitioned from hopeful to legitimate contender every season, and with that comes the expectation of a really good product on the ice. So I can understand the logic behind it, that the product is better, and in any area of life, you pay more for a better product. That's kind of the way it goes. And as fans, it sucks when that happens, because you see the success and you love the success, but you also want to be able to be in the building to experience that success. And some people are going to be priced out. Like you, I'm 24 years old. I'm not in a position where I am able to just go spend a big chunk of my income on season tickets. So it's not realistic for me. I go to plenty of games, but I'm more frequently getting them on the reseller market, like StubHub. And obviously those prices will be higher too, because that season ticket holders selling their tickets, and if they paid more for them, they're going to sell them for more. So it's going to be different. It's tough. I feel for the fans. I also understand the business decision from the Panthers' perspective. I think there is a little bit of an element of risk to it.
Yes.
Because anyone who really knows the South Florida market, it's not necessarily championship or bust, but it is an expectation of we're only going to support a winner, and if you have a winning product, a lot of people can disappear when it becomes not a winning product. So I think you got to be careful in their position where they've just now become a winning product in the past couple of seasons. I would like to see them give fans a little bit more time to become more established as fans. Sort of leave it at a price point where fans can really build a multi-year relationship with the franchise and with the players, and be a little bit more ingrained in it before, as every team that wins Stanley Cups and contends for a long period of time, eventually that ends. And you would like for the fans that you've built along the way to stay fans and remain loyal when the years don't go as well as they have the past couple of years. So if you raise prices too quickly and price people out before they're able to really build that lasting sort of fanship, that's a risky play.
Yeah.
So that's from a business perspective, that's the only part that I see as really risky. But it's, like you said, supply and demand is everything. They have a wait list. They've never had a wait list before. This was always going to happen. So I understand it. It's tough. I don't love it. But it's just kind of the nature of how these things go. The one thing that I will say, with the arena renovations that are coming, removing so many of those 300 level seats and then replacing them with the viewing deck, I understand it's going to change the sort of the look and feel of the arena. It's going to make it a little more modern. I'm not a big fan of the fact that the net loss, on a permanent level, the net loss is something around 600 seats. I'm not a big fan of having fewer people in the building personally. The amount of seats they're getting rid of, and then the amount of seats that they're replacing with that viewing deck, you're going to have a net loss in attendance as far as the number of people that can fit in the building. Not a big fan of that. I love the viewing deck idea. It's great, but I don't love that you're going to have a net loss of people in the building, because fewer seats means higher demand, higher prices for everyone else who is getting in the building. And then I just don't in general like cutting down the number of fans that you can fit into the building, because everyone wants to get in. You have a wait list. don't see the logic behind having fewer seats available. But I guess that's a smaller critique because the arena is in need of renovations, and that's the direction they want it to go. So I get it. I don't love cutting down the capacity.
Yeah. And you think of if it gets to a point where it's like too corporate, and the fact that the lack of seats could not make the arena as noisy, which is what a home ice advantage is all about for any franchise in the NHL and across sports. So that's the worry there for me on that side of things for the Panthers and just this situation, but also like going to your point about raising them too quickly. I mean, they raise them. Some people who might have been there from the beginning might say no this time around, and then by the time that they're ready to rebuild, and then that the people who were just here for the ride withdraw from getting season tickets because they trended back downward. Are you going to be able to get those people back is the question.
And we've seen that happen with the Heat, unfortunately. And I'm a diehard Heat fan. Happen to have my Heat hat on tonight. We've seen that happen where you have some really good established loyalty for the franchise, but after the Big Three era, it definitely had gotten a little bit corporate, and it was such a big draw. And Miami's a hotspot city, so it's all kinds of celebrities and people who could afford the nicest and the best seats. They didn't care to go to the games when it was Shabazz Napier and Hassan Whiteside and James Ennis. Like, no offense to those guys, they all accomplished great things in the NBA. But those teams were not competitive enough to be championship caliber teams, and people didn't go. Not to say that their attendance was in the toilet or anything, but it certainly wasn't the building that it had been during the Big Three era. And it took a long while to rebuild that. I don't really think that the atmosphere at Heat games and the diehards and the loyal Heat fans really fully returned until Dwayne Wade left and then came back. So just a little bit of a case study when you look at what the Panthers are doing right now in the same general region. The Heat went through something very similar, and I'd like to see the Panthers make sure they don't make a similar mistake to what the Heat did during that era.
Yeah, and we won't necessarily see that immediately. It'll be
it's the type of thing that's years down the line,
half a decade or beyond, that we will see what those actual returns will be for the Panthers. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me on another edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, another successful Winans Wednesday edition of the show. Tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys at the arena for these home games coming up here this week.
Awesome. Thank you, and see you next week, my friend.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.